great to see you. That was quite a speech last night. We've been trying to play parts of it for the audience. I just wanted to start by asking, I mean, in my experience with big speeches like this, they kind of come from a fire in the heart of the person delivering them about something they really want to get off their chests. What did you tell your team who wrote the first draft about what you wanted people who watched it to take away from it?
Thanks, Jen. And look, let me be clear. We're in a perilous moment in this country. There is, tumult around everyone in this country. We've had our economic rights taken away. We've had our civil rights taken away. And it's only been 100 days. And it's time. People have to stand up, speak out. And I wanted my team to make sure that what we're conveying to people is that they do have power, even in this moment when they feel powerless, where there's a Congress that has given in entirely to a president who's frankly taken us off the rails and who lied to the American people when he ran and won in November. He told us he was going to lower prices for people. He told us that he was going to make the world a safer place, that he was going to bring peace in Ukraine. And the fact is he's done none of those things. And indeed, the opposite of that. Now what he's doing is raising prices and taxes on middle-class Americans, working-class Americans, in order to give a massive tax cut to the wealthiest people in the country. So when you don't control Congress, when you don't control the White House, and people are feeling helpless and powerless, it's time for people to mobilize. And I wanted people to hear that they do have power.
Maybe you just answered my question, but there was a very powerful call to action. We've played this in your speech, mass protests, mobilization. You also say the reckoning is here. What does that mean? How should people understand that?
Well, that was specifically about what we as a Democratic Party need to be doing, that we can't be a party of do nothing, of not getting things done for, again, the people that we care the most about, the people that we're focused on. That's working families, right? The middle class, working class, the most vulnerable in our society. It's important to us to stand up in this crisis and to speak out and, again, push back. And so, hyper important for we as Democrats to recognize this is the moment where we need to convey to people what we really stand for. It didn't do a great job of it, frankly, in the last election, and that's why we didn't win as Democrats. It's time to speak out, and then, very importantly, we have to deliver for the American people. And I think, frankly, in the states, and you've seen states where there are Democratic governors, not just me, but lots of Democratic governors around the country, we've been delivering for the people of our states, but we need to do this on a national level. And the Congress isn't getting the job done. Indeed, now it's controlled by MAGA Republicans who are taking us backward.
This overall vibe of the speech or emotion of the speech, I think, was a bit wake up, everybody, or that was one of my takeaways from it. And you talk in a very personal way. You kind of called out the administration in a very personal way for its authoritarian power grabs under the guise of combating anti-Semitism. And you said, stop tearing down the Constitution in the name of my ancestors. I mean, clearly you feel it in your bones. A lot of people watching feel it in their bones. It feels like you were basically saying, my ancestors have lived this movie before. Wake up, everyone. I mean, do you feel like people, even within the Democratic Party or people in Congress, don't understand or they're not tracking where this is all headed?
I think that's right. And I have to say, you're right. It does come from a place deep inside. Remember, my family emigrated to this country from Ukraine when the Russians were killing Jews during the pogroms. This country accepted us as refugees, and we had nothing, right, except the kind of the shirts on our backs and frankly, the motivation of not just the escape and from danger and the safety of the country, but also the opportunity that was here. And, that is, by the way, what most immigrants who come here feel is a real dedication to what America offers. And so what I feel, anyway, is that the dangers that my family experienced in Ukraine, the dangers that we saw in Nazi Germany, especially in the earliest days of Nazi Germany, are the dangers that we need to react to now If we don't, things will get much, much worse. I talked about habeas corpus, and I know that sounds like a concept no one wants to really hear about in the public, but what does it really mean? It means the government doesn't have a right to snatch you off the street and put you in prison without you having your day in court. And that is what Donald Trump not only has done to legal residents of the United States, including U.S. citizens, and you talked about 2-year-olds, 4-year-olds, a 4-year-old with stage 4 cancer, indeed, who's a U.S. citizen, right, without any ability to fight back, right? They're taking people off the streets and sending them away. These rights, he then goes on to say in private, someone caught it on camera and on video, on audio, that these rights, he's willing to take these away from U.S. citizens now on a regular basis. So this isn't just speculative. This is something, yes, I feel it in my bones because I've seen this happen before. And so we've got to raise alarm bells to everybody. It's a 5-alarm fire, everyone. It's time to step out of your comfort zone and step out into the streets and speak up and make your voices heard, because that's the only thing that we have. That's the power that we have. And we can stop them in their tracks because, you know what? Republicans in Congress don't want to lose re-election. And if they see that you're willing to stand up and speak out, and by the way, Republicans, farmers, and veterans all across even the state of Illinois, we're considered a blue state, but lots of red counties are speaking up, and they're deeply, deeply concerned. We're seeing it across the country. That's why you see tens of thousands of people showing up at these rallies. So I'm glad to see it, but yes, I had to raise the alarm.
You just mentioned this. I mean, you spoke about immigration repeatedly in this speech. I don't think this wouldn't have been a speech most people would have given a year ago. There was a lot about immigration. Obviously, it's quite, people's rights are quite under threat right now, as you mentioned. You said, as you kind of mentioned very clearly, that the idea that the government doesn't have the right to kidnap you without due process is arguably the most effective campaign slogan in history. I mean, it is. It's very clear. Everybody understands that. And this morning, I mean, the morning after his speech, Trump's borders are basically defended deporting children who are U.S. citizens. It's still at the same time, there seems to be still a divide within the Democratic Party about talking about immigration. I mean, some have said it's a trap, that it's not one that should be debated. I mean, clearly you think they're wrong, but why are they wrong? And I agree with you, by the way, on that.
They're wrong because, well, I have to say the people who want to avoid the topic are wrong. Here's what we stand for, right? What we stand for is a secure border and comprehensive immigration reform that says that the people that we want in this country are the hardworking, tax-paying, law-abiding people, some of whom are already here. They're undocumented, some of them. And we've got to make sure they have a path to citizenship, because once you have a secure border and you're actually allowing immigration on this basis, these are the very people that you want to have come into your country. So let's give them a path to staying in the country legally, the ones that are already here. That's the argument that we Democrats want to make. Secure border, comprehensive immigration reform, and let's keep the hardworking people that are frankly making our economy run. And let me be clear about what I mean when I say that. It's not just that they're doing the jobs that people say other Americans won't do. But, 46% of the Fortune 500 companies in this country, the biggest corporations, 46% of them were founded by immigrants or the children, the first generation children of immigrants. This is the lifeblood of our economy. Again, we need immigration. We're the only country in the world that is truly made up almost entirely of immigrants, because we have a pact with one another about what American values are, not because we have a certain color of skin or a certain religion, but because we agree with one another that the fundamentals of our Constitution are what we're all buying into. That is what Democrats believe. The Republicans, and Donald Trump especially, are demonstrating that is not what they believe in, and we've got to stand up and fight back for the fundamental principles of this nation.
I'd also add that the massive overreach and the immoral and illegal actions people don't like, we've consistently seen that in the polls in these individual cases. There's so much more to ask you about. We haven't even dug into the Democratic Party.